world business community has really been responding positively.
It is a magical time to be in the Philippines. This country has a tremendous future ahead of it.
Right now we're encouraging investors to invest in the Philippines.
We are the next tiger economy.
Stretching nearly 2,000 kilometers from top to bottom and set in the clear tropical waters of Southeast Asia, the Philippines is the world's second largest archipelago. The capital, Metro Manila, is home to some 12 million people and serves as the political, economic, and cultural center of the country. 3 years after being elected to be the country's 15th president, Benigno Aquino III is credited with ushering in an era of economic growth that has transformed the former sick man of Asia into one of the region's brightest stars.
I visited the European country that had, at the first quarter, 0.1% GDP growth. And when we were asked exactly what our GDP growth was, and I did mention 6.3 or 6.4 at the time before it was revised, there was a noticeable pause in terms of the response. Because my counterpart was trying to evaluate how can we do it in light of the world economy. No? And the thing is, perhaps this is just the starting point. So there are a lot of people who recognize the potentials of the country, be it tourism, be it infrastructure, even manufacturing. When there are more players in the market, then you have the ability to realize the potentials quicker, faster, sooner. The world economy has been, and the world business community has really been responding positively.
If you looked over the last 30 years of the Philippines, it has been a roller coaster, up and down. It is the first maybe couple of years that we've seen growth going up and the enthusiasm levels going up. The current administration has probably the most popular ratings and acceptance ratings. And I guess the Philippines all moving towards one direction. And I think if you put that together, that's a very explosive growth that's going to happen over the next 5 years.
An HSBC report released in 2012 predicts the country will be the 16th largest economy in the world by 2050 as the result of strong macroeconomic fundamentals and significant improvements in governance. While not all of the president's policies have been roundly embraced, Filipino business leaders are confident about the country's prospects, with business optimism ranking the second highest in the world, according to an international survey released earlier this year.
What is unique about this country is you have a president who is unprecedented in presidential political history, deeply trusted by its people, and you have a people that's willing to work closely with its government. And it's never happened before, and it's going to stay like that for the years to come under this leadership. So you have here a situation that is unique in the world today, and I think that creates a fundamental environment that you need to attract investors, tourists, people who want to understand what this big change that is happening in a country like the Philippines.
With the Philippine Stock Exchange climbing daily and a real estate boom in full swing across the country, it is evident that Filipinos believe their time has finally come. Under President Aquino's leadership, the federal government is attempting to get its fiscal house in order and crack down on the corruption that has hindered economic growth in the past.
The Philippines is perceived today as having a stable government with a lot of reforms being undertaken, It has managed both the monetary and the fiscal policies of the country quite well. So the government is doing a lot in creating a level playing field, which attract a lot of both domestic and foreign investors.
What we're interested in is to bring the expertise coming from experienced foreign operators and developers. What we assure them, it's going to be a level playing field. Everyone's going to have his whatever one guy gets will be available to the other. There will be no preference for local parties. They'll be treated equally. We encourage competition. There will be no under the tables nor over the tables. So that's the basic environment that we want to create. The transparent, open, and competitive environment just allows us to plan ahead and look forward to further engagement with foreign investors.
Although according to the World Bank, taxes accounted for less than 12% of GDP in 2010, the Philippines has become a net creditor to the International Monetary Fund after nearly 4 decades as a net borrower. Fitch Ratings conferred investment-grade status on the country in March of this year, a long-awaited upgrade that has given the Filipino government more space to invest in its people. With a robust spending plan focusing on healthcare, infrastructure, and education, the Aquino administration has set its sights on achieving inclusive growth.
The problem of poverty and inequality must be dealt with decisively and vigorously. And I think this president is committed to doing that. We need to make all these reform initiatives sustainable and politically and economically irreversible. Our president is not just looking at the next 3 years. He's really looking at the next 3 years and beyond. And therefore, the investments will not be simply 3-year time frames, but really looking well beyond what this country should be over the next 10 years.
Sprawling across more than 600 square kilometers on the island of Luzon, Metro Manila is a city of contrasts. Like many cities in the developing world, extreme wealth and abject poverty often stand side by side. With a sizable percentage of the population living on less than $2 a day, the Aquino administration realizes that lasting growth hinges on making sure that economic gains filter down to the poorest of the poor.
When we came in, we said, what is the problem with Philippine growth? What is the problem with the progress that the country has been to? The poor people, those that are below the mid-level, never experience the kind of growth or economic expansion that the upper crust of society has been. And because of the vision of President Aquino, when he clearly said, it must be inclusive growth, meaning everyone must be part of the solution. Everyone must grow, not just a sector of society. So the deliberate design wherein we infused government resources to the bottom of the pyramid.
A controversial bill mandating higher taxes on alcohol and tobacco recently passed in the Senate by a single vote, with the revenue generated earmarked for improvements to healthcare access and quality. An ambitious public-private partnership initiative has been rolled out in a variety of sectors, particularly transport and health, with the private sector responding enthusiastically.
The economy is moving in many different directions, but our infrastructure as a country still remains a little bit dated. We're maybe 10, 20 years behind where it should be. Rather than see that as a problem, I see that as a tremendous opportunity. These days, there's a strong impetus to encourage, I guess, the private sector to get more engaged in helping the government with its infrastructure needs.
A country that is comprised of more than 7,000 islands, the development of air and seaports throughout the country has been prioritized in the hopes of jump-starting provincial economies.
Transportation, the infrastructures like seaports and airports are the gateways of our country. We're subdivided by 7,100 islands and three main archipelagos, the Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. So we really need the gateways for the various cities all across the Philippines. So not only do we open gateways for tourism, but also gateways for our food and industrial products as well. As the country grows, each port, each seaport, each airport has to be modernized in order for the Philippines to cope up with the growing demand for tourism as well as business.
The Filipino government has also added an additional 2 years of basic public education in the hopes of providing its people with the tools to become globally competitive. With a young, English-fluent population, the human capital of the Philippines is already globally recognized, with educational improvements poised to strengthen what is already one of the country's greatest assets.
This is the kind of thing that encounters a lot of resistance because some people think that it is a burden on them for them to be asked to put their kids through school for 2 additional years. But the reality is we're behind the rest of the world. We're the only country in Asia that still had 10-year basic education program. If you don't address basic education to start with, you really cannot address the problems of our entire education system because the fundamentals have to be strong on which to build.
Though policy changes at the federal level are aimed at achieving the trickle-down effect, development of key sectors of the economy, such as agriculture and manufacturing, also could play a pivotal role in uplifting the poor. Manufacturing hasn't developed in the Philippines at the same level as regional powerhouses, such as China, due to unsubsidized electricity. Yet those who do invest in the sector can still remain competitive thanks to the quality of the Philippines' human resources.
The people here are fantastic. Every day I have the privilege of working with people who are passionate at what they do, they're so hardworking, and they bring a level of kindness that's contagious. But when you allow these people who have a great deal of imagination and creativity to do what they have to do, and you get rid of the barriers and the obstacles, there is a level of success that will propel different industries that this country will see come to prominence.
While the Philippines' location on the Pacific Ring of Fire means that the country is susceptible to typhoons and earthquakes, Filipino farmers in provincial areas are adept at cultivating and harvesting nature's bounty, often with methods that have scarcely changed in hundreds of years. The Philippines is seeking to modernize its agricultural sector, with local firms developing innovative fertilizer technologies and exploring hybrid seeds that might improve food security and increase yields for farmers whose livelihoods depend on small tracts of land. With an ultimate goal of rice self-sufficiency, more investment is needed in the sector, not only to grow the Philippine economy, but also to have a powerful impact on some of the country's poorest people.
President Pinoy himself is rallying to attain rice sufficiency and food security within the next 2 years. If only 25% of the Filipino rice farmers would use hybrid rice, this would effectively erase the rice insufficiency of the Philippines. If only the right technology, the right inputs, the right financial support is given by government or by private corporations, we have the potential to even export rice. And the potential for Philippine agriculture is there, and Philippine government alone may not be able to reach this potential. The help of private corporations and perhaps foreign direct investments on Philippine agriculture in partnership with Filipino corporations can actually spell a lot of difference. This can have a dramatic effect on our economy. By investing on agriculture, you will actually change the lives of the Filipino people.
Throughout the country, one of the first things a visitor will notice is the ever-present smile of the Filipino people. A Gallup poll released this year ranked the Philippines one of the happiest countries on earth. And it shows. Even in the face of natural disasters, Filipinos throughout the country respond to adversity with an easy smile and a ready laugh. Nowhere else is the tradition of making the most out of even the worst situations more evident. OFWs, or Overseas Foreign Workers, are national heroes, working long hours in a range of positions in order to be able to provide opportunities for their loved ones at home. Their contribution to the economy cannot be understated, with remittances in 2012 hitting a record-breaking $23.8 billion, or roughly 6.5% of the country's total GDP. The warmth and English language skills of the Filipino people have put them in high demand internationally in the healthcare, hospitality, and the maritime industries.
With the Filipino profile is very well accepted all over the world. And evidence of this is that we have about 11 million Filipinos working across the globe. Evidence of the acceptability of Filipino as workers is seen, for example, in a country like Singapore, where 45% of the hospitality industry is manned by Filipinos.
Because now that the Philippines is on a different trajectory, it's attracting this brain trust of Filipinos who work all around the world, and they're looking at their home country again in a different way and seeing opportunities that didn't exist, and they're coming home.
Filipinos are born performers, with such a wealth of talented singers that visitors often wonder if the whole of the country was born with a microphone in their hands. It's this talent that the Filipino government hopes to capitalize on as Entertainment City, Southeast Asia's answer to Macau, rises above reclaimed land within spitting distance of Manila's major international airport. Number 3. Watch a Manila Bay sunset. Long famed for the blaze of colors that paint the sky as day fades to night, Manila Bay consistently serves up a feast for the eyes. Number 2. Visit the Hobbit House. This Tolkien-themed establishment is the world's only fully owned and operated Hobbit bar, with hundreds of beers from around the world and nightly entertainment. Number 1. Enjoy a feast at Seaside. Visit one of Manila's sprawling wet markets, take your pick of the freshly caught seafood on display, and take it to any one of the restaurants a few steps away. Despite its relatively small size, the fact that the Philippines is comprised of 7,107 islands means that it has a coastline longer than the continental United States. The beach is never more than a few hours' drive, making the Philippines an island lover's paradise.
The Philippines is one of the beautiful country in the world, and those people who never see the Philippines, you have to visit in the Philippines. Philippines is a very safe country and a beautiful country. We have a lot of islands, thousands of islands in the Philippines, and you can see a lot of a tourist spot here.
For those travelers visiting Manila on business, the beach resorts of Batangas are an easy weekend trip, and the picturesque beauty of Taal Volcano never fails to impress. More adventurous travelers will find that the mountain retreats of Sagada and Banaue are well worth the effort due to their stunning natural scenery and cooler temperatures. For history buffs, the cobblestone streets and relics of Spanish colonization that are tucked within the city walls of Intramuros beg to be explored. And no matter where you go, the Filipinos you encounter will welcome you with open arms, one of the many reasons for the success of the recently launched It's More Fun in the Philippines campaign.
When I heard that slogan first, I stopped for a moment and think, that's really true. Generally, I'm not saying the other countries don't do that, but I've been traveling since I was 16 years old. Most countries, the people work in the tourism industry. Many countries are there doing it as a job. The Philippines, if you look at the Filipinos in the tourism industry or the service industry, they're having fun doing what they're doing. So that's why it's more fun in the Philippines. Because the service is not as in, oh, I'm doing this because I have to do it because I have to make a living. Of course, they have to make a living, the Filipinos, but they're also having fun because that's the nature of the Filipinos. They are just fun-loving people. That's why we were called the happiest people on earth.
A thriving budget airline industry means that, in addition to the delights found throughout Metro Manila's Luzon, a visit to one of the world's most perfect paradises is rarely more than an hour or two away. Palawan, the Philippines' final frontier, is home to one of nature's masterpieces, the underground river, and pristine beaches. Gaze across the chocolate hills of Bohol. Feel the powdery white sand of Boracay between your toes. The Philippines is a place visitors just can't help falling in love with. The Philippines of today is a nation characterized by tremendous economic optimism and human capital that rivals the best in the world.
This is not something that we really invented, but rather provided the environment where the Filipinos' talent and our potentials as a nation can come to the forefront.
From real estate to tourism, manufacturing to agriculture, it's a country poised to capitalize on its vast potential and move into a period of prosperity long overdue.
You know, the Philippine economy is like a bullet train. It's accelerating. You want to make sure you're not left behind.
The rising tiger of Asia, the Philippines, is in the process of writing the next chapter.